And we are live for a Football Friday show. Josh Hennig hanging out with you, still in the 97.3 ESPN studio. Of course, you know how we roll. If you're new to the show, thank you for jumping on. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with your friends. We are here every Friday night for Football Fridays, right here on my YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig on X. Every week, we give you the picks. Everything you need to know about the football weekend. We do a little recap. We got the sheet of integrity. We're going to get to it all right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Thank you for joining me. Before we get into the picks, here is the rundown for tonight's show, because we're not going to keep it too long. I know Chiefs, Chargers, you want to see the game? Well, I want to see the game too, okay? We're not going to spend 100 years going through this. So let's get to a couple of the business items we have to get to before we get to the picks. Number one, last week, we went 7-4 on the college football picks. So on the year, we went 7-4 on the football picks. We are now 10-6 overall. So we're hitting at just 60%. So we had to do a little extra research this week, get things ramped up with that. That is number one. Number two, don't forget, tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN, Hanging with Hennig will be broadcasting live from the new Gridiron Pit inside Tropicana Atlantic City, because you want to level up your game day at Tropicana Atlantic City, the Gridiron Pit, powered by Cedar Sportsbook, a high-energy fan zone where blackjack meets big screens, bold bites, and big wins. Play your hand, catch every snap, indulge in tailgate-inspired food and drinks, and spin the big wheel of prizes every Saturday and Sunday through our football season. And tomorrow, Saturday, we will be there 12-3 for Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Island, streaming live on YouTube next right here in the Dr. Squatch virtual studio. It's located near the cashier cage, is where the Gridiron Pit is, where the thrill of the game meets the rush of the table. Must be 12 or older. Know when to stop before you start. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We will be giving away a Jalen Hurts jersey tomorrow. So if you want to have your chance to win that jersey, you must be present to win tomorrow from 12-3. We'll be broadcasting live for Hanging with Hennig inside the Gridiron Pit at Tropicana Atlantic City. That's number one. Number two, remember, all betting lines are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, okay? So if you find another line somewhere else, I cannot tell you about that. I can't speak to that. So now that we got the particulars out of the way, let's get to the football talk. Now, for those who are new to the show, if you're new, thank you for tuning in. If you're a regular, you know the deal. We touch on a couple of the picks we got right and wrong the week before that kind of lead into this week's picks. Also, we do college football before we do NFL. Football Friday, I'm not picking Chargers, Chiefs. We are sticking with Saturday, Sunday, and sometimes Monday games to keep you. Some of you are not watching this live. I understand that. You might watch it later tonight. You might watch it tomorrow morning. Wherever you're watching it, wherever you're watching, thank you for watching Football Friday with me, Josh Hennig. We've been doing this since 2018. Originally on the radio was the deal, but now we got streaming. We can do it exclusively on the stream for all of you. So what did we get right last week? Well, I told you guys under in Ohio State, Texas. I told you all under in LSU, Clemson. When you give teams time to prepare, they are always going to be able to take you down. What did we get wrong? I really thought that a FCS contender like Montana State was going to give Oregon a run for their money. Well, Oregon said, Josh, take a long walk on a short pier, and they blasted them. So, again, overall, we did good. 7 out of 11 picks won. Also, humble brag, but Mike Carlin, who was with me last Friday at yesterday's Creekside Tavern in Marmora for our live show, he went around saying, oh, Penn State's going to blow out Nevada. And I was like, pump your brakes, pump your brakes. Guess what? Nevada covered at the end. I might have been the only person with my hands excited. I was like, yeah, let's go. Because the problem with when it comes to sports betting is that you got to look at the numbers for what they are. You cannot look at the numbers for what you want them to be, okay? When I am giving out picks, I am not giving out picks based on a bias, a personal preference, who I like, who my friends are. You can't do that. You know, I had people mad at me on 97.3 ESPN today because I took the position that Jalen Carter shouldn't be suspended. It's not about my personal preference. It's about precedent. Preference, precedent. Precedent says there's been numerous players who spit on people, never got suspended. Preference, frankly, I wanted to scream and yell at Jalen Carter in his face because he put his team in a horrible position last night. Now, they won the game anyway, and they allowed 0 points in the second half of that game. Great job by Vic Fangio adjusting, but you cannot go into these situations with personal bias or preference. That's why I can sit there and say Nevada is going to cover a huge spread. Huge spread. So for me, making these picks is not about my personal bias. It's about what I think is going to happen and trying to give you guys information. Again, we've been doing this since 2018. And of course, thank you to all of you who are watching. Like 40 Kid, just found you a Mike Gill show this year. I'm happy to be on board. Looking forward to your picks, Josh. Well, thank you, 40 Kid, for tuning in to the show. Again, at Josh Hennig on YouTube, at Josh Hennig on X. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Listen, this is not an exclusive deal. I'm not some guy telling you, I have exclusive access. Let me give you. This isn't that trash, okay? I'm not one of those guys trying to sell you, I don't know, some Discord Patriot account. Listen, I'm not some unique special insider trying to rip you off, trying to take your money to give me money, whether I win or not. I don't care once I get your money. No. We don't do that here. I've been doing this now since 2018. Track record is what it is. All right? So thank you to 40 Kid and all of you for jumping on board. Again, we're going to try to get through these as fast as we can before the kickoff of the Chiefs-Chargers game. Again, 40 Kid, he knows I'm a producer for Mike Gill on the Sports Fashion 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, I am the host of Hanging with Hennig Saturdays and Sundays. Sorry, Saturdays, 12 to 3 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays. Just Saturdays. Sunday's supposed to be my only day off. Doesn't always happen that way, but hey, life is what it is. All right, let's get to the picks. As I mentioned, we are now on the college football week 2. Once we get through week 2, we'll go to NFL week 1. Saturday, Sunday games. Let's hit it right now. Again, all lines are being brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. It is the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards. Bet on gridiron action and earn perks on every game like hotel stays, bonus bets, game tickets, and more. Download the app using promo code Radio20X. This is for New Jersey residents only. When you use Radio20X as your promo code and place your first bet of $1 or more, you have a chance to double your winnings on your next 20 bets. So this is for new users in New Jersey who are 21 or older. Max bet at $25 for boosted winnings. Max additional winnings, $2,500 per bet. Profit boost tokens expire 14 days after receipt. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay? So that's where the lines come from. That's how we got here. Let's get into the picks overall. I'm going to start with one of the biggest games of the day. And by the way, don't let anybody tell you this is a down week for college football. They're just people who are not real college football or not real football fans, okay? This is a really good football week. So let's get into some of the picks here. I want to start with Iowa at Iowa State. This is an interesting game. Not just because it's a rivalry, but because this is a game where for the first time in a long time, you have two offenses with competent offensive coordinators, with competent quarterbacks. This is not what it's been in recent years. I feel like almost every year I was picking under in Iowa State, or I was picking Iowa under the team total or something like that. This is the first time I have, with my own numbers, projected a potential high scoring game. Listen, Iowa State has a bona fide NFL quarterback prospect in Rocco Becht. Iowa actually has a legitimate offense. These are not two teams that are just built around the run game and defense. These are two teams that shown you that they can score points, and their defenses are not the most stingy in college football. The over-under is 41.5. I really like the over in this game. I think this is probably going to be a 26-24, maybe a 27-21 kind of game. I think Iowa State wins it because it is in Iowa State. It's not at the Hawkeye building. It's in the Cyclones building. but give me the over. I think this is going to be higher than the 41.5 points on Saturday. Let's stick in the Big 12. Kansas at Missouri, one of the biggest rivalries in college football. Again, some really good rivalry games this weekend in college football. I really like Kansas to cover the 6.5 at Missouri for two reasons. One, the Jayhawks are averaging 38.5 points per game heading into this rivalry game. Kansas has played 2 games already this year, so their offense has gotten movement. They've gotten their feet wet. Missouri only has 1 game on them. So Kansas a little bit more ready for this matchup. That's the first reason. I like their offense heading into this game. Number 2, Jalen Daniels is a dark horse Heisman Trophy candidate. That quarterback looks like he is firing on all cylinders. I don't think Missouri has the talent to stop him. I think Kansas is going to make this a very close game. Now, Missouri might still win. Typically, the home team wins in this rivalry of Kansas-Missouri. But overall, I think that you're looking at 2 teams that are going to be in a position to score some points, and Kansas will keep it close. Cover 6.5. That's what I'm looking at. Next game, not a rivalry game, but has some very interesting side notes to it. University of South Florida at Florida. Why do I like this game? Well, Byron Brown is a veteran quarterback. He has started 21 games in college football. He transferred to USF. He looked great against Boise State last week. They made Boise State look really bad in their win. They upset Boise. Almost nobody saw that coming. Now, this is a program that is believing in themselves. They have faith in what they're doing, and now they're going to go on the road to the swamp, to Florida. I don't think USF's going to win the game, but I think Florida is not as good as some people think it is. I think this is potentially going to be a shootout between Byron Brown, the USF quarterback, and Florida quarterback, DJ Langway. I think the 18 points is way too much. I think Florida wins this game, but it's probably going to be something more like I'm thinking like a 35-21 kind of game. I don't think Florida's going to be able to shut them down altogether. A team like USF that can out-physical Boise State is not going to be dominated by a school like Florida that doesn't have the monsters on defense that would be needed to shut down a team like USF altogether. Another big spread I'm looking at heading into this week, and I know some of you, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X at Josh Hennig, thank you for watching us. You tune in to the Dr. Squatch Virtual Studios. Again, all lines are presented by Caesars Sportsbook. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Big line, Kennesaw State, 35.5. Yeah, you heard me. Kennesaw State, 35.5. They're at Indiana. Everyone who has listened to me over the years know when I feel strongly about a team, I'm going to hit that team for good or for bad hard. And I feel very, very strongly about Indiana. I think Indiana had a very, very favorable schedule last year. They are not the same team they were last year. Indiana last week struggled against Old Dominion. Old Dominion, not a great football team. Indiana struggled to score against them. And now they're facing a Kennesaw State team that held Wake Forest to 10 points last weekend. And you're telling me Indiana's going to win this game, what, 45-10? I don't even know if that's going to happen. I think this is probably one of those games where Indiana does get some points as the game goes on, but then they're going to sit their starters at the end. They're not going to cover the spread. 35.5 points is a huge number to bite. The only way teams cover huge spreads if they are a powerhouse football program. Indiana, not a powerhouse football program. Even Penn State had trouble scoring and covering the 42 points last week against Nevada. And Nevada is a much lesser team than Penn State. Indiana, not as good as Penn State. Kennesaw State, about the same as Nevada in terms of the kind of players they typically get. So, if you have a Kennesaw State team that can play defense against the Indiana team that has trouble scoring points, I like Kennesaw State to cover the 35.5. All right, a couple more college football games to get to before we get to the NFL. Houston at Rice. Rice and Louisiana was a game I was very curious about because Louisiana in recent years has done a good job of recruiting, but Rice showed you last week they have a very good pass defense. Houston struggled to score consistently last weekend. And now that Houston Cougars team has to go on the road to a Rice football team. They got a huge win on the road last week. Rice is going to be riding high. They're going to have a lot of self-belief, a lot of self-confidence heading into this game. So I genuinely believe that Rice is going to be able to cover the 14 points. They are a 14-point dog at home, and I think Houston is not going to be able to dominate them. The line is just way too much. I think this is the odds makers trying to sucker you into a Houston bet. I think this is a situation where Rice is going to probably, if Rice loses the game, it's only going to be by a touchdown, in my opinion. All right, another dog I am looking at heading into this weekend is Army at Kansas State. Army is a 17-point dog on the road. Now, I get it. Army, they lost last week. But they lost in double overtime. And they had over 410 total yards. Army has an offense. Their defense, sketchy. Offense, they got something going there. You get over 400 total yards, you have an offense. Kansas State's defense is allowing 29.5 points a game in their last two games. Iowa State and North Dakota. Two very different programs, but they're allowing points against both. This is not your traditional Kansas State team playing gritty, hard-nosed defense. I think Kansas State has trouble slowing down Army's offense, and that's why I like the Army Black Knights to cover the 17-point spread on the road at Manhattan, Kansas. All right, a couple more college football picks to get to. Michigan at Oklahoma, under 44.5. Two young quarterbacks. They put game on tape. I know everyone loves Underwood of Michigan. Mateer is highly regarded of Oklahoma. But I think when you take two coaching staffs with very, very, very smart defensive-minded coaches, okay? Two coaches who are great at putting together game plans. I think Underwood and Mateer are going to have some struggles in this game. They are now facing coaches who had an entire week to game plan against them based off of tape from last weekend. I think this is going to be a rock fight. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair, 44.5. It's one of those numbers where if you run projections, the number's going to land around 44, okay? Most people, if you run the projections, think this is probably going to be a 24-20 kind of game. I'm going to lean into the under just because, again, I think in college football, coaching beats talent more often than not. So, again, under 44.5. I also like UNLV at home to cover the 2.5-point spread against UCLA. Nico Amalieva looked terrible in his first game for UCLA. It was an absolute fiasco. He looks like a byproduct of Tennessee's offense, okay? That Tennessee coaching staff with Josh Heupel made him look a lot better than I think he really is. He is struggling. And now he has to go on the road against a UNLV team that came into the year with a ton of high expectations. And you've heard us talk about it right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig on X. We have talked about for the last couple of weeks. UNLV came into the year with a ton of hype. They want to prove the hype to be real. They want to prove that hype is legitimate. So now you got a UNLV team that's averaging 38 points a game going up against a UCLA team that had trouble offensively. And you think UNLV, I would even go as far to say you would take UNLV outright to win the game. I wouldn't mind that at all. But I think overall, UNLV 2.5-point dog feels like it's almost like the odds makers are telling you, pick a side. They don't even want you to take the line in that case. So that's why I'm leaning toward UNLV in that game. Finally, in college football, anyone who's known me since 2018, I got my favorites, right? Army, Navy, Hawaii. We're going back to the islands. Yes. Sam Houston State at Hawaii over 49. Now, my numbers say that this game should probably have been a total of 54.5 for this matchup. Two teams that do not have good defenses, but have tons of firepower offensively. These are two teams that have shown you they can put up points in bunches. Now, I understand Hawaii got shut down by Arizona, but Arizona is 10 times better than Sam Houston State is defensively. Sam Houston State has now been in 2 games where they have scored way more than the opposing team thought they could. I think Hawaii wins this game, but I think this is going to be, as I said, my projected total when I ran my own formula was 54.5. The over-under at the Sportsbook is 49, presented by Cedar Sportsbook. That's their number. I think this is going to be closer to not 49. I think this is probably the number I came up with to get my 54.5 was I have Hawaii winning. Yeah, I've been winning 30-24. That's how I got there. So I tend to think that this is going to be a high-scoring game, and that's why I like the over 49. And hopefully we can all stay up long enough on Saturday night to see the completion of that game. All right, that is the college football slate. Let's get to the NFL, as I know Chargers-Chiefs is getting underway. All right. Sunday, we're going to go run it through right now. Again, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. At Josh Hennig, YouTube, and X. All lines brought to you by my friends over at the Cedar Sportsbook. Download the app for new users. Use promo code Radio20X and place your first bet of $1 or more for a chance to double your winnings on your next 20 bets. In New Jersey only. Download the app using my promo code Radio20X. All right. Giants, Washington, divisional matchup. Give me the under. 45.5. We saw multiple games last year where Jaden Daniels was not electric every single week. Jaden Daniels was not electric every single week for Washington. There were games that defenses were able to limit him. So I think a Giants team with an elite defensive front with all the talent in the world defensively, but not all the talent in the world offensively. Malik Neighbors going into this game banged up. If he plays, he's not going to be 100% healthy. It's not like the Giants have a great offense. So combine that with a Washington team that has made some serious upgrades from last year in the trenches. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. I think Washington wins, but I think it's going to be a Giants team that's going to be very tenacious, very pesky, and they're going to get after the young quarterback. Remember, quarterbacks in their second year, you're giving other teams an entire year of film on you. Now teams know how to play you, they know how to game plan against you, they know how to manipulate you. So now I'm going to take a team in Washington against a Giants team that has a great defensive front. So give me the under 45.5 in that matchup. On the flip side, I'm going to go over in the Bengals-Browns game for the opposite reason. Two teams with limited talent on defense. Bengals have Trey Hendrickson. Browns have Myles Garrett. Aside from those two players, it's not like either team has elite defensive talent on each side. And now you have two teams with quarterbacks who love to throw the ball. Joe Burrow, the Chase. Joe Flacco, the Jerry Jeudy. Those are the connections. And then number two, don't forget, and David Njoku had great numbers the last time Joe Flacco was in Cleveland. Same thing with Joe Burrow to Higgins. Higgins had some big games against the Browns in years past. 47.5 feels like a bit of a low number. It feels like a conservative number put out by the odds makers. I think this is going to be one of those like 30-27 kind of games where in the fourth quarter, it's going to be a close game. The Browns are going to try to win it, and then the Bengals are going to pull away. That's the kind of game that I think is going to happen in the situations. That's why I'm going over 47.5 in Bengals-Browns. All right. I was told this pick earlier when I gave it out on 97.3 ESPN is a deep cut. Cardinals team total 24.5 at New Orleans. I think New Orleans is just not a good football team. You could argue they might be the worst team in football this year. They are going to have struggle in games defensively. And remember, they traded Marshawn Lattimore last year. Demario Davis is getting older. Cam Jordan is getting older. It's not like these guys are young enough to handle what comes with everything. So I tend to think that this is going to be one of those games where I think the Cardinals are going to want to come out and send a message. I think Kyler Murray has a lot to prove. Marvin Harrison Jr. in his second year. They got a lot of talent on that team offensively. Defensively, they're a bit, Jonathan Gannon, I think, got something out of them last year, but they still struggled at times. But I think the 24.5 is a bit of a conservative number again. I think this is the odds book. Try that again. I think the odds makers. So you have to understand, this has been explained to me by people who are much smarter than me, who've worked in sports books. Sometimes odds makers put out numbers because they're trying to discourage you from placing bets. So if they put out a certain number in a total and then give you another number in the team number and they don't match, they are hoping that discourages you. Well, sometimes it's an opportunity to take advantage of the odds makers. The numbers don't add up. And I was told by a very smart man, sportsbook consigliere, Dave Sherapan. Thoughts and prayers to him as he's recovering from the procedure he had this summer. He told me when the math doesn't add up, take advantage of the sportsbook. And that's why I like the over 24.5 for the Cardinals in this game. All right. A couple more NFL picks to get to here on Football Friday show, presented by Caesars Sportsbook are all the numbers. Don't forget, we will be at Tropicana's Gridiron Pit in Atlantic City tomorrow from 12 to 3 p.m. for Hanging with Hennig on 97.3 ESPN. Steelers, Jets, under 38.5. Now, this is a game that I will admit, I don't love this game, okay? I don't love this number. But I'm going with the under because I think that both teams know their former quarterbacks well enough to slow them down. I think the Steelers are very familiar with Justin Fields from playing with him last year, and the Jets are very familiar with Aaron Rodgers from playing with him last year. This is less about the numbers than it is about me playing the eye test, the football guy test, right? There's a comment that Chris Long sometimes makes on the the Green Light podcast and on NFL Films, their weekly show with him and Ryan Clark. And they talk about, sometimes you got to go with the football angle. You can't just go with the numbers. Sometimes the numbers don't tell the whole story. And I think this is a situation where two defenses, quarterbacks who can take advantage of them to shut them down and put them in a position to win that game. So that's why I'm going under 30.5. Don't love the number. If it's a scenario where you could find a different number on Caesars Sportsbook, I know they give a lot of options on the app. If it's something where maybe if you are comfortable enough moving that number up, maybe get a same game parlay together, right? Not an official pick, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Maybe one of those same game parlays where you move up the total on the over under, maybe like the 40.5, and then you parlay it, with something like, Justin Fields under touchdown passes or under total touchdowns or something like that. Like, maybe you can generate a juicy enough same game parlay number that you don't feel like you're just throwing money away. But again, the 38.5, this is a game I could totally see being like, 2017, 21-17, 21-14, just because both teams know the other quarterback so well. All right, a couple more picks to get to. 49ers on the road, straight line, 2 points at Seattle. So this game was originally 2.5. That's why I said 2.5. But the game number moved this week. A lot of sharp money early in the week came in on the 49ers. And now people are backing off the 49ers because of the Christian McCaffrey injury news. For those who didn't see it, McCaffrey has a calf issue. He says he is going to play in the game on Sunday. But the 49ers have not confirmed that at all. I don't think the 49ers need McCaffrey to be 100% to beat the Seahawks. I think the 49ers need to get back to what they just do in general. Be physical, be aggressive, take advantage of the other team. I think Seattle does not have the talent they used to. I thought the Seattle team last year was a much more balanced, better team. I don't know if Sam Darnold's going to do well without Kevin O'Connell in his ear. I think the loss of DK Metcalf is a huge loss for that team. And I think the 49ers have something to prove. I think this is a San Francisco team with a head coach, Kyle Shanahan, who, if you read the book, The Why is Everything, by Mike Silver. Great book, by the way, if you're a football fan. You would have learned that Kyle Shanahan is one of the most neurotic, obsessive football people on the planet. The man is obsessed with winning. He is psycho. So if you are a team like the 49ers, you have a head coach spent the entire offseason trying to make your team better. I think they're going to be more than prepared for this game in Seattle. That's why I like them to cover the 2-point spread. Texans, Rams under 43.5. This is a very simple conversation. DeMeco Ryans is going to Los Angeles with a Texans team that has a great set of players on the defensive side of the ball. They know that Matthew Stafford may not be 100%. They are going to come for him with everything they have. Everything they got. They are coming for the older quarterback. And I think the Rams also have a good defense. Remember, their defensive front gave the Eagles some issues last season. And the Eagles have a better offensive line than the Houston Texans. So, two teams with great defensive fronts sounds like an underplay for me. I don't even know who wins the game. I mean, I'm assuming the Rams are going to win because they're at home, but you never know with these games. So 43.5 feels like too high of a number for me for two teams that have very good defenses and average at best offensive lines. Lions, Packers. To me, this is one of the easiest lines on the board this weekend at Caesar Sportsbook. Packers are favored by 2.5 at home. I like the Packers cover. If the Packers win by 3 points, you cover. You're a winner. I think the problem is, as I've been arguing with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN FM, you see the sign behind me, I've been telling people all month, I don't believe in the Lions. I just don't. You lost the best center in football. You lost both of your coordinators. You've already gotten injuries on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm supposed to believe that you're a bona fide contender in the NFC? Come on. I think that Micah Parsons is going to wreck this game. I don't think people realize how motivated Micah Parsons is to prove to Dallas that they needed him. I think there's a part of him that was watching the game last night that was shaking his head and saying, they would have had me. And I think on Sunday, the Packers team is going to benefit. Also, I think Matthew Golden's breakout game is going to be this weekend. I think Matthew Golden, the rookie first-round draft pick for the Packers, that guy has an incredible future in the NFL. He's fast. He's electric. He's a dynamic route runner. And he is sneaky strong at the point of attack. I think that the Packers win this by at least 3 points. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like a 30-21 game. I just don't know if the Lions are a good team, but they're not as great as they were last year. And that's even with the 14 starters who were injured last year for Detroit. Finally, speaking of Detroit, Ben Johnson is the former Lions offensive coordinator, now the Bears head coach. I need to see Caleb Williams look like the first round draft, the first overall pick before I start treating him like one. I think Ben Johnson is the kind of coach who can get more out of him, but I also believe that Brian Flores is the kind of defensive coordinator that makes young quarterbacks' life a living hell. I think you're talking about a guy in Caleb Williams who, remember, Brian Flores saw Caleb Williams twice last year. Brian Flores has seen Ben Johnson offenses for the last few years. I don't think Caleb Williams is capable of doing the checks the line of scrimmage that Jared Goff can do. I think Jared Goff is a much better equipped quarterback at this point in time to deal with a Brian Flores defense than Caleb Williams. So the things that Ben Johnson was able to do with Jared Goff, he cannot do with Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is a year away from being what we really think he can be with Ben Johnson. I think there's going to be highs and lows this year. I think this game is going to be a low. That's why I like the under 21.5 for the Bears team total. Because if the Bears score 21 points and let's say the Vikings win the game 30-21, you're good. You're safe. So I think that it's about understanding the matchups in this game. I think Brian Flores is a great defensive coordinator. He's going to take advantage of the Bears. He's going to frustrate Caleb Williams and the Bears offense. And I think the Vikings, they're going to win the game on the road. They're going to make life miserable for them because the Vikings, and this is a referendum on the entire NFC North. I think the NFC North has some really good defenses. The Packers, obviously, we know about Micah Parsons, but they were already good before they got Micah. The Lions, if they're healthy, they are very scary to deal with. And when you look at the Bears, they got some good players in defense too. And the Vikings might be the best defense of all of them. Former Eagle Isaiah Rodgers, he's going to flourish up there in Minnesota. He's entering the prime of his career. He's going to have a great year for the Vikings. So I do like the Vikings to slow down the Bears offense, cover the team total under 21.5. All right, that's it. That's the Football Friday picks. Remember, tomorrow, 12 to 3 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN FM, streaming live on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig. I will be live at Tropicana, Atlantic City, the Gridiron Pit. We will be giving away a Jalen Hurts jersey, but you must be present to win. If you want to win the jersey, you must come out, hang out with Hennig tomorrow. Me, Josh, you, let's go. Football, big screen TVs, tailgate-style menu, table games right near the gambling pit. We are right there in the middle of the action. Come out and join us tomorrow. Tropicana, Atlantic City. I'm Josh Hennig. I will see you tomorrow right here on YouTube and X at Josh Hennig live in the Dr. Squatch virtual studio. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the game between the Chiefs and the Chargers. Take care, everyone.